don't think I ever actually talked about this show on the channel, but I watched the first American Horror Story season in quite a long time since the last one I watched. Um, Randomly, just wife and I decided to watch it. American Horror Story Delicate. Um, yeah, I mean, the last American Horror Story season I would say I actually watched, I think, was Apocalypse, and that was like years ago. And this review is a little of someone who was a little out of the loop, at least with the anthology series. But Delicate just wrapped up, and as far as, my thoughts on the season, this was just a really, really weak season of horror television. It just, the theme of it, I actually see the potential in it. And I know this was based off a book, but this entire season of American Horror Story, it just had so many issues with it, and it's like hard for me to wrap my mind around it of what they were trying to do. My general consensus of this season is I feel like they just really did not know what to do with this or how to really tell this story very well. And one thing about it is, like, most of the season is pretty dang slow. Like, not a whole lot happens, and this season is short. It's only like 9 episodes, I think, compared to other seasons where they had 11, 12, 13 episode seasons. And even with this season, Delicate, like, a lot of episodes were very short. I mean, typically American Horror Story tends to run around the typical time of a TV spot, which is if it's an hour show, it's usually about 40 some minutes long. But there's a lot of episodes that were 35 minutes, and the last episode of the season was 31 minutes. It was really, really short. So yeah, Delicate, if you've never watched it, but it's Emma Roberts basically plays this actress who was in this big role of hers that was nominated for an Oscar. And she is also carrying a child. And, it has a lot of themes that have to do with dealing with pregnancy and dealing with, being a woman and wanting to have a career, but also simultaneously have a child. And a lot of themes are like that with Emma Roberts' character. I would say most of this season, I mean, it's funny. Like, Emma Roberts, I would definitely say was, probably the MVP of this season. And this season has Kim Kardashian. I know a lot of people feel very strongly about Kim Kardashian. I'm actually not going to be a hater on her on this season. I actually thought she did a fairly decent job at this role that she played. And yeah, I mean, in all, it's those were probably the 2 top performances. I mean, as far as Kim Kardashian goes, her performance actually I thought was better than one of the other main characters, the guy who played Emma Roberts' husband in this season. I thought he was the worst actor out of everybody. I don't know. I know he's been in other TV shows, and I'm not trying to hate on the actor, but as far as his character was just non-existent. And there was just a lot of things that happened in this season that, I know American Horror Story is pretty famous for just not really answering some questions, which I'm completely okay with. I think it's totally okay to have something that's not cut and clear to the audience. But there's certain aspects of this season where it's I really thought you were going to provide some sort of context to that, but it really doesn't. And yeah, this overall season, it does try to portray this feminist message to women, especially those who are going to have a baby or have a baby. And I know, a lot of women have that struggle with, wanting to maintain a career while simultaneously being a mother. If you don't want to be spoiled, just go watch it. But the way that this wraps up, it does have a general message of saying that, hey, you can have both. It is hard, but yeah, how things wrap up, it's most of this season, there's all these horror undertones, but it's just Emma Roberts dealing with just the horrors of being pregnant and having to deal with all that. Simultaneously, like the fame and, you know, all the stuff going on with her career. She was nominated for an Oscar for this role that she did. And then it's just funny because the end of the season, I don't know, maybe I'm a little out of the loop with stuff, but like to me, I don't think the Oscars really matter all that much at this point. And not a lot of people really watch the Oscars all that much anymore. And it's sad to say that, but I mean, just thinking about it, I mean, I haven't watched the Oscars in the last few years, and the most recent thing about the Oscars was the Chris Rock slap from Will Smith, you know, from like 2023, I think. And, you know, that has a lot to do with it, and like how her winning an Oscar is like such this huge deal, but in order to, like, how badly does she want to win this Oscar, and the themes of that, of would she actually give up her child in order to win that Oscar. And, you know, it's very convoluted. I feel like this is a show, American Horror Story, I feel like it's just a show at this point that is kind of just going through the motions. And I'm sure people and fans of the show who are still like watching it probably feel that way or felt that way like a number of seasons back. I mean, to me, I've always had this like morbid curiosity about American Horror Story, of what they're doing with it. And I've like, you know, I was tuning into the first number of seasons. I think Freak Show is where I really started to fall off the show, because I thought that, you know, that season started off really strong and then it just went way downhill for me after the first few episodes. I think once they killed off Twisty the Clown, I was like, this show, like this season is doing nothing for me, because I thought Twisty was just such a cool character, and then you killed him within like a couple episodes. But yeah, and then Hotel I didn't really tune into. I think I tried to hop back on the show at Roanoke, and I was like 4 episodes in, I just didn't even go back to it. And I think the last like actual season of American Horror Story that I actually did pay attention to was Cult. I think I actually watched Cult all the way through, and Cult was at the time with like, you know, Trump being president and like a lot of political stuff. So I think it was definitely a thing to come out to at least represent that time. And then Apocalypse, I remember watching a good bit because, you know, they were saying that they were going to bring back old characters from, you know, Murder House the first season. And I never really got up to the point where they actually brought back those characters. So, but oddly, I decided to jump back on the show at season 12, you know, the Delicate season, to watch it. And yeah, I mean, definitely a lot of people would say that it lost its footing and lost its way like a long time ago, but people are still tuning in to watch this show. But Delicate, it definitely felt just so half-assed, honestly. It's just, it didn't really know where it was. I think it knew where it was going to go, but they just didn't know how to fill the time. And that's very apparent because you guys didn't even make like full-hour episodes. You guys made like 35-minute episodes. So it's clearly showing like you weren't sure what to do with it. And for most of the season, really nothing a whole lot happens as far as like horror type stuff going. Like, I'm thinking back now, because I watched this on a weekly basis, and then they took a break halfway through the season, and it's like, I would have understood doing that when, you know, if you had like 12 episodes, but you had 9 episodes. So, it just didn't really go anywhere. I mean, I think this is something that you could have taken this source material, and if you've remade this, most likely it would already be better than what we were given. And I'm not saying this is like the worst thing I've ever seen. I'm sure some people could watch this season and definitely feel that way. But there is a lot, of this season that just nothing happened until like the last 2 episodes. And it was hinting at like this cult and, you know, these women that, you know, want to get rid of, you know, the patriarch, basically be able to resurrect, and, you know, give birth to all these like great people and then have them basically take over the world. It was just a funny message, and it definitely with some of the line deliveries as far as that big reveal of this cult and their motivations, it definitely it definitely came off pretty silly, and the one moment in the last episode definitely made me laugh a good bit. I was just like, all right. I don't know. One of the women from the cult end up shooting like Emma Roberts, like security guy, like in the ambulance. Basically, like right when Emma Roberts, spoilers, but right when Emma Roberts like basically wins her Oscar, she goes up to accept it, and then like she notices that like basically her water breaks, but she's like bleeding, and it's like going all over the floor, and like she's like having this weird fever dream, and she has no idea what to say. And then she basically just gets like, escorted off the stage. And then, the husband shows up, who was like cheating on her or whatever. And so he rides with her in the ambulance, and she's like so pissed because she like just found out he was cheating on her. He was like, "You can ride with me in the ambulance, but don't say an effing word to me." And so it's like her bodyguard was riding shotgun in the ambulance, and then her husband was riding with her in the back of the ambulance. And then just randomly out of nowhere, the woman driving, who was one of the members of the cult, basically just like shot the bodyguard right in the face, and blood goes everywhere. And then randomly, Emma Roberts, like I guess baby, like randomly, she starts like bleeding, and her husband like puts his hand like under her dress, and then all of a sudden his hand just gets severed by the baby, I guess. And it's funny, it always makes me laugh when I watch like horror stuff that whenever someone's like has like a body part decapitated or whatever, like I don't obviously know what that feels like, but sometimes when you watch this stuff, you think like you feel like they'd have a stronger reaction to like literally losing their hand. Like, I mean, you could go into shock, but like the guy, like the husband loses his entire hand, and like his first reaction, he's like looking directly at his hand, and he's just like, and it's just like, dude, I feel like you'd be screaming your guts out at that point. And it's funny because like it goes to like a commercial break, and then it comes back to like that scene, and then the husband's like in the corner just like holding his arm with his hand missing, and then he finally starts screaming even more and more. I was like, all right, a little more oomph and a little more effort there, that's good. And then it escalates to the one woman from the cult like literally takes his severed hand and just like shoves it in the husband's mouth, and like he basically just suffocates that way. And at that point I was like, I literally started laughing because I was like, I really don't think they intended that to be funny, but I couldn't help but laugh at it because it was so like, it was such a joke watching that. I was like, was that supposed to be scary or like terrifying? Like, because I just thought it was pretty funny. And that's how a lot of like this season came off. It was just, I don't know, I just thought it was funny. And yeah, how it wraps up, it's like it at least had a conclusive end to it, and with this message of saying like, you don't have to give up something so grand just to have a baby, which in a way is a good message. But how it was, executed and everything, it was very strange to me. And so kind of wrapping my head around this season, like I just watched the finale last night, so it's kind of hard to kind of understand where they were trying to come from with this. But yeah, it just seemed like it was just kind of thrown together, and that's the way I felt about this season. It's like they're just kind of going through the motions, like they're just being renewed for seasons, so they're like probably just getting people together to shoot the season. All right, cool, we got our paycheck, let's move on type vibe. Where yeah, it didn't really feel like it had a whole lot of like soul or inspiration for the season. So I mean, with all the flaws that the first few seasons had in American Horror Story, it definitely felt like there was some like soul and care that was put into it. And I feel like, yeah, at this point, it's like this show, I mean, I think most people agree that this show is just going through the motions at this point, and it really should have died out like seasons ago. But they keep doing it. I mean, that's what happens. These shows get milked for all they're worth. And, honestly, Walking Dead kind of got ruined by that. They could have had just a good, solid run of a show, and then the show started going downhill. They just kept it going, and they kept it going, and they kept it going, and that's how American Horror Story is here. So I just wanted to come on and give some quick thoughts on American Horror Story Delicate. I'd love to know what you guys think if you did watch it. I mean, I thought it was funny. I mean, American Horror Story is one of these shows that, like, every time I watch it, I don't know, I feel like some part of me likes it. I have this weird relationship with it. I wouldn't say toxic relationship, because, like, I don't, like, legit hate when I'm watching. I just don't take it that seriously. And I think because I go in with, like, no expectations, that I don't leave going like, oh my god, that was the worst thing I've ever seen. I'm just like, yeah, that wasn't really good, but I mean, it was a way to fill the time, I guess. But anyways, I really don't know what they're going to do with season 13, but I do think at this point they should kind of just call it quits, you know, make season 13 and then just wrap it up there, because the show's been going on a long time. And, you know, after, like, by Freak Show, I was kind of already, like, checking out of the show. I mean, you can tell some pretty interesting stories with an anthology series where each season is different, and I think that's what keeps people coming back, is their curiosity to what they're going to do with a new season. But yeah, I mean, at this point, it's like, you know, kind of just take the loss and, you know, move on to something else. So I'll wrap it up there. I want to thank you guys very much for watching and tuning into Love That's in the Belfry. I will see you in a future video. Bye.